is one of the country's finest spinal and orthopedic surgeons, whose expertise in promoting simplified spinal care are greater than top-notch. From a small-town boy hailing from Ifla in Demerara, Guyana, his one decision to set out onto uncharted territory to fulfill his father's wish and pursuing a career in medicine has paved the way for him to be the leading voice in helping others reach optimal spinal health. Till date, he's conducted over 3,000 surgeries, played an integral role in a major motion picture, and has had the privilege of authoring a few books on whole body wellness, including his latest, Secrets of the Cervical Spine. Now, Dr. Ken, how did your upbringing motivate you to pursue a career in orthopedic surgery?
It's a great question, Lakshmi. I've spent a good bit of time studying my foreparents, my grandparents, for example. My grandfather on my father's side was a pan boiler, which means that he was the guy that made the sugar estates, the sugar plantation, much more efficient. And he was well known and well loved, and he was all over through Suriname and through the West Indies, making sugar estates much more efficient. And my grandfather on my mother's side is Laltapal, and he built a furniture magnanimous company. Those guys built great companies from nothing. And what I learned from my forefathers were that to be really excellent and really to be a leader and to be sought out and to be loved by the community meant that you didn't have to be highly educated, probably like I am, but you had to be a stand-up guy, and you had to do all the right things, and you had to have good attributes, and you had to help people. And that's how the community really looked up to you, because they were really good men. And so from them I learned the attributes of working hard, diligently over time, and attacking big projects. And it's amazing that all my achievements are probably not as big as my foreparents' achievement. It's really amazing to watch.
Now let's talk a little bit about your dad. This was a dream of your dad's.
Right, exactly. So my dad wanted me to be a surgeon. So we moved to the United States, and my dad was working 3 jobs. And so he said, son, I want you to be a surgeon. Now, I love my dad a lot. And I said, you know, I don't think that's going to happen, Dad, you know, but I'll give it a shot. But so he didn't have a lot of money, and he would put down $10 or $20, and I'd go to college and I'd study for my MCATs all day, and I wasn't doing so well. And I'd come back and say, Dad, you're wasting your money. But and this is the story I told when I graduated in orthopedics in Los Angeles. So I just kept trying because I loved him so much. And my mom too. I love my mom too a lot.
I'm sure both of your parents are very proud of you today, and they're extremely happy that you continued your pursuit in orthopedic surgery. Tell us, what is a day in your life with your practice like?
First, you have to remember that I'm really happy doing what I'm doing.
Okay.
And then I'll tell you the hours. The hours are incredible. So on a surgical day, I'm up at 4:30, and I shower, and I'm in the operating room by 7 to 7:30. And I'm operating sometimes till 10 or 11 or 12 at night. And that seems like slavery, but if you realize that I love what I'm doing every moment of the day, then it is a phenomenal opportunity of a life. And other days we're seeing patients, and we see tons of patients, and every time I'm in front of a patient, like I'm with you, I try to be fully present and to give my very best to help them as much as I can. So while I work incredibly long hours, I'm really happy doing it.
Well, a great man once told me, when you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life. So, Dr. Ken, tell me, how much personal time is consumed while being in practice?
The practice is incredibly time-consuming, but I'll shock you in that I try to take 1 day off a week just for myself and my family. Well, it was actually mandated by my wife because she saw me going crazy without having rest and relaxation. So most Thursdays I'm right here developing, reading, writing, or doing some kind of personal development.
And how many patients do you see in a week?
A typical week we'll see about 100 patients.
100 patients.
Yeah.
What would you say their age ranges as?
Well, it's a great question. Take the question from what age ranges have you operated on? I've operated on a 16-year-old who had a huge herniated disc, right? And as a surgeon, I served and I operated on a 100-year-old lady, and she made it to 104.5. Wow. I was very proud of her, and she was my good friend.
How do you feel that you're saving lives?
I don't know if I'm saving lives. As a spine surgeon, we diminish pain and we diminish suffering and we restore function. So it's hard to say that I'm saving lives, but I'm actually helping significantly with people's...
Saving their lifestyles, I should say.
People's well-being and how they feel. So for example, one study showed that if you have a herniated disc and you have it cleaned up in surgery by someone like myself, then you're better at about 3 months when you have it done. Then the study followed to 8 years, and then you're better up to 8 years. Otherwise, you can choose various conservative treatments and continue to suffer at various other levels. But I think we're helping people tremendously and significantly, no doubt. We're not a life-saving profession. It's not like a trauma surgeon that has to hop in and take a gunshot wound, fix it, things like that. But we help people a lot, no doubt we do.
Before surgery, I was in a tremendous amount of pain. It was to the point where every several hours I had to lay my head down. I couldn't even hold the weight of my own head. The headaches were horrible. I was a single mom. Trying to cook dinner, I was dropping things. I was interfering with my work, my social life. Being a single parent made it very difficult. And the pain just got to the point where I didn't know what else to do. I tried everything. I tried to adjust my diet, my activity level. Tremendously, my activity level was impaired. Different injections. Horribly tried even to take some pain pills, which scared me. I don't like taking medicine, and nothing was working. It was probably only a few months after the MRI. We tried several different anti-inflammatories, injections, physical therapy, homeopathic remedies, and it just was to the point where I had to do something. The quality of life was so poor. Honestly, had it not been for my son, I don't even know if I would have wanted to live. It was horrible. Surgery was a scary thought. You always fear the worst. You always hear horrible stories, people that don't do well or recuperate well. But it was at the point where I knew I had to do something, so surgery was really my only option left. And I was very well educated by Dr. Ken Hansraj and his staff. Helped me through every stage of it. They explained to me exactly what was going to be done, what different angles and avenues and the anatomy of what was being done. And that really eased my mind. Today, I love life. I'm living every day to the fullest. I don't have headaches anymore. I'm active. I'm doing the activities I enjoyed before. I can drive. I can turn my head. Life is wonderful. Every day is a gift. I love that I can be educated now and explain to others that sometimes waiting is not your only option. To do what you need to do to care for yourself inside and out, and the quality of life now is so much better.
Well, now, according to the American Chiropractic Association, about 80% of U.S. adults experience back pain in their daily lives, Dr. Ken. What is the cost extent of this problem in regards to the United States?
It's a really great question, and I've meditated on it, and I've gotten the help of one of the great economists of the United States, and we were able to assess the cost accurately. So the cost last year in the United States was $115 billion.
Wow. Let's talk about Guyana. The numbers in Guyana.
Yes. So in Guyana, the GDP is $3 billion, and doing an extrapolation, it would cost 20 million American dollars for Guyanese care, of which we do not believe they're spending at the same rate we do in the United States. So it's probably 10 million.
Trinidad and Tobago.
TNT, their GDP is 28 billion. And so we estimate they're spending between 93 and 186 million dollars for spine care.
What are the numbers in Suriname?
Suriname, the GDP is 5 billion. And so their spine care costs are between 17 and 34 million per year.
Do you know the numbers worldwide?
So we extrapolated worldwide. The worldwide GDP is $73 trillion. And so if the world pays the same rate that we do in the United States, it would be 500 billion. But we do not believe that the world would pay at the same rate. So we anticipate and expect it to be the world cost of 250 billion.
Wow, Dr. Ken, that's indeed a lot of money going into spinal care. Any suggestions about preventative care?
Well, Lakshmi, that's the reason why I wrote my book, Keys to an Amazing Life, Secrets of the Cervical Spine. People everywhere are suffering.
Right.
And there are so many free things that they can do to take care of themselves, and they're just not aware. So people can help themselves. They're just not aware of the simple things they could do to help themselves every day. And when they help themselves, they can feel better that hour. They can feel better that day, and they can have a more productive life.
Now, Dr. Ken, in your book, Secrets of the Cervical Spine, you not only explain that your physical world is an obvious reflection of what goes on within you internally, but that there are 8 free physicians. Let's talk about this. What is good posture?
Good posture is critical. Good posture is mission critical for the spine. If the viewer learns just this one topic, they can expect a better life. So good posture is where your ears are above your shoulders and your angel wings back.
Okay.
Just like you are. Beautiful. Look at that.
I feel better already. Okay. So how is optimal posture benefiting to overall emotional, mental, and social health?
It's incredible what the studies are saying, Lakshmi. There was a study by Amy Cuddy, right? So I'll explain this to you.
Okay.
When you're feeling well, when you're doing well, when your kids are doing what they are supposed to do, and you're making money and your wife is right by your side and you're happy, then you manifest good posture because the internal chemistry is good. And when the internal chemistry is good, then you could see someone, you can tell someone in good posture and you know that they're doing well. But recently, in a really acclaimed study by Amy Cuddy, she did a study with her group, and they found that when people get into good posture, ears above the shoulder, angel wings back, then their testosterone went up, the dopamine went up. Dopamine makes you go, 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 testosterone as well. Serotonin, which is a feel-good hormone, was also up, and cortisol, which is your stress hormone, went down. So just choosing to be in good posture, change your internal chemistry. I think she deserves a Nobel Prize for the study. Very powerful indeed.
I hope my posture is well. How does it look, Dr. Ken?
You're
Are we
looking
good?
great. It's
Okay.
a very nice manifestation. Your ears are back, your shoulders are back. You're doing great.
You know, you're so right, because I just sat up as you were talking about posture, and immediately I think my mental balance just went straight up, and I feel much more positive sitting like this. So thank you for pointing that out, Dr. Ken.
You're very welcome.
Let's talk about meditation.
Another shocking piece of development, and also for free. So in my book, Keys to an Amazing Life, I wrote about the Harvard study by Brittle. They took people that are meditation naive, that's most everyone, they don't know what meditation is.
Right.
And they didn't even really do meditation. What they did was mindful-based stress reduction. So MBSR is, I see you, I honor you. It's really Buddhism at its most central roots. MBSR, I honor you and I respect you. After 8 weeks of MBSR, they did functional MRI scans, and people's frontal cortex, the thinking brain, became thicker by functional MRI scan studies. And the amygdala, which is the reactive, emotional, craving, depressive, everything wrong. It's Grand Central Station, terrible for the brain. The amygdala shrank. How powerful is that? And that's why I'm excited about meditation. So I recommend people do one meditative piece a day, at least 15 to 20 minutes a day.
And how much meditation do you do in a day, Dr. Ken?
I typically do 2 to 3 hours a week.
Okay. Why are your thoughts available for free?
Another great development in thoughts. This development is thinking about your thinking. So the modern concepts of thinking is, well, let me go to the old. We used to think that the brain was this organ that just decayed over time, and as you got old, then it became non-functional, and there's a watershed moment that you just became someone that you just need to take care of. Not so. The modern study shows that as you think, you're wiring new neurons in your brain. You're literally wiring a new brain. So when you have to be really careful about your thoughts, because what you think gets wired to your brain. So I would be careful and think positive things, and I would get rid of negative thoughts and friends that help you think negative thoughts.
Tell me about sunlight and daylight.
In Guyana and South America and the West Indies, you have plentiful, bountiful sunlight. When the sun hits your eyes, it goes to a part of the brain that turns on a mechanism that makes your heart beat faster, makes your liver more productive of sugar, and it turns on and manifests a whole different human being. And that's why our forefathers tell us to get up early and to embrace the sunlight. So you can turn on a whole new optimized person by being in the sunlight. Besides the other benefit, the most major benefit, we need to be in the sunlight at least 20 to 30 minutes a day to get enough sun for vitamin D production.
Would you say people in the West Indies are happier than, let's say, people in London?
I think they would have all reason to be happier because there is so much more sunlight. And that would be the explanation, and a very good explanation at that.
Okay. Why is fresh air important?
Another free physician for you is fresh air. So many of us work in buildings that are just closed off and piped in air, and we get what's called sick building syndrome. Now there are modern buildings that are being developed that just the windows open and you get fresh air, and they pump in only fresh air. And architects are paying great attention to the quality of air that you get in these buildings.
Well, I can definitely agree with you. The new buildings that are going up, they are definitely more conscious about the whole going green effort, which includes, of course, the sunlight and the fresh air. Tell me about rest.
Many people are tired and they're not feeling well, and life is not working, and they don't have great relationships with their wives and kids, and they're not making enough money, and they're just running through life without enough sleep. Imagine that. They're just not thoughtful to sleep enough. So I recommend building a sleeping sanctuary, someplace that you go to have great sleep. And the studies, Lakshmi, are saying that if you sleep less than 7 hours a day, you'll die significantly faster. And if you sleep more than 9, you'll die faster too, because it probably means that you're depressed. So besides sleeping, so I recommend 7 to 8 hours a day, and which is what I try to do in my life. I recommend also getting a nap at about 3 to 4 in the afternoon. The brain loves a nap, especially at 3 to 4 in the afternoon.
How many hours of sleep do you get a day, Dr. Ken? I know you're very busy. You have surgeries all the time. You've done about 3,000 surgeries in 20-year span. How much rest do you get in a day?
I average 7 to 8 hours. Sometimes I get 3, 4, or 5. But sometimes, let's say I do a 3 or 4 hours sleep the night before, I need a nap for about an hour before just to get functional to come home. So I'm very careful with sleeping because I wish to live a long and productive life. I wish to be happy about it.
Well, that's great because we need you here. Dr. Ken, let's talk about diet. How important is one's diet?
If you have, in my book, we have a picture of a Ferrari, and we ask you, what do you put in your Ferrari first thing in the morning? Diet is what you feed yourself and what you feed this body and how you maintain and optimize who you are. And many people are just not thoughtful about it. So, especially in Guyana and Trinidad and Tobago, you have abundant access to organic meats because there is just not pesticides around as abundantly as or widely used as we can do it in the United States. And you have fresh water and fresh fish, fresh caught fish, and that's good. That's really, really good. So you have access to good, nutritious meals. So I would say just think about what you're eating. Again, it's thinking about your thinking and thinking of what you put into your body. Diet is extremely important.
Now, in the West Indies, I mean, we're talking about how important diet is with the fish and, you know, what we're eating, like you said, the fruits, the plants, the fishing. But one issue in the West Indies, not only in the West Indies, but around the world, is alcoholism and alcoholism abuse. How does alcohol cause underlying harm to our backs?
Wow. So in my practice, I spend a good bit of time helping my patients to do even better than the results we get from surgery. And one of the most common ways that we're able to help people is to calculate with them. So a person that drinks 4 to 5 drinks per day will gain about 60 to 70 pounds of extra weight a year.
Wow.
Now keep in mind, as they're drinking, they're not exercising and they're not getting nutritious calories because they just don't spend time doing those things. And it's amazing that when I sit down with people that are consuming this many calories in alcohol, then they find that they're not really gaining 60 to 70 pounds. So I point out to them that their body is burning off so much of that. And so people are finding that if they quit drinking 5 drinks a day, that they can lose 70 to 80 pounds in a year, which is really so powerful, which is really so amazing. And everything gets better, right? So you quit alcohol, you're thinking better, you have better relationships with your wife and kids, you have better relationship at work, you're making more money, and you're happier. So it all gets better.
So instead of drinking alcohol, maybe we should drink water. How much water do you recommend in a day, Dr. Ken?
Another point, that's another free physician that people just aren't thoughtful about. The studies recommend that we drink approximately 8 ounces of water per day. If you're a pregnant woman or you're an athlete or you're a laborer working in the sunshine, you might need 10 or 12 8-ounce glasses a day, but the standard recommendation is 8 ounces of water or 64 ounces per day.
Now, Dr. Ken, I know exercise is the 8th free physician in your book. We're here, of course, in your beautiful home, and I know your wife, who's also a doctor, she's a physical medicine and rehabilitation specialist, Dr. Marcia Griffin Hansraj, is here with us. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a break, and when we come back, let's ask her how important exercise is.
Let's ask her.
Viewers, we are back with Dr. Marcia Griffin Hansraj, who is a physical medicine and rehabilitation specialist. So, Dr. Griffin, why exercise?
Why exercise? That's such a loaded question, and it's my favorite topic in the whole entire world, probably. But why not exercise? It is so vital that we're all out there and we're moving. The big 5 positive attributes of exercise are that it makes you feel better, it makes you look better, makes you feel better about yourself. It will help you manage existing diseases, as well as maybe even prevent some chronic illnesses from arising. Currently, right now, according to the World Health Organization, chronic illnesses is the leading cause of mortality in the world. So this is something that we need to address. These are some chronic illnesses that are arising right now are diabetes, hypertension, stroke, heart disease, cancer, mental illnesses, kidney disease. There's so many chronic illnesses like that that could be deterred, lessened, maybe prevented. Of course, there's some risk factors that we can't change, be it age, gender, or genetic predispositions. But, you know, we can actually apply like some diet and exercise lifestyle changes to help us like deal with life more effectively.
Right. I mean, we hear it all the time that diet, exercise is so important. But I mean, really tell us, Dr. Griffin, how important is exercise?
Oh, exercise is so important. We know that right now that we have an epidemic in obesity right now. You know, Michelle Obama and many fitness specialists out there right now are trying to help the United States of American citizens combat this problem with obesity. It's on the rise. I don't know if it's actually plateaued yet. There are some conflicting studies that are out there right now whether or not we've abated it to the point that it's plateaued. But the numbers are very high in our civilization as well as in other countries as well.
Now, I know you believe that yoga is optimal for spinal care. Tell me about that.
Yoga is just fantastic in so many ways. I mean, I can't even begin to talk about all the benefits of yoga, but I've been a yoga enthusiast for 20 plus years, and it is just so fantastic for building strength and flexibility and symmetry into the body, calmness of mind and body. Yoga is just so fantastic in so many ways. Specifically for the spine, though, yoga is probably one of the best exercises that you can do to bring that flexibility into the spine, which the spine so desperately needs in order to open up the nerve channels and the facet joints. You know, we want to open up those channels so the nerves can exit freely. So by doing a lot of forward bending and doing, say, a downward dog or upward dog poses, then you can just like, you know, bring that flexibility and open up those channels so that the spine can operate optimally.
Now, Dr. Griffin, you and your husband, Dr. Ken, you're both doctors, you're very busy with your daily lives. When do you find time to exercise?
Scheduling. I mean, that is the big one. I mean, that goes with like almost like any facet of your life. I mean, scheduling, when you're really busy, you need to schedule. In order to get something done, you need to schedule it. Then you can increase your chances that you will do it. So with exercise, I schedule it just like I schedule anything else. So maybe on a Sunday night, I put together my schedule, you know, ahead of time for the week, and then I will look to see, you know, when I have windows of time and what exercises I can do, what classes I might do, or how I can fit in some exercise.
Wonderful. Now tell me, what advice do you give your patients towards their health?
Towards their health, well, I deal with a lot of amateur sports people. However, with them, I often will be like helping them with their injuries and to help them, you know, get better, you know, increase their strength and protect their joints if they're a tennis player. You know, maybe they've had some medial epicondylitis or lateral epicondylitis with their, you know, their dominant arm. So, you know, I'll help them with that, or runners getting their plantar fasciitis or something. Like, I will help patients, you know, overcome these injuries. But basically, in the basic population, like most patients, what they need to be informed of is they need to be told about the minimum recommendations for exercise. So in order to promote health and well-being, you want to be exercising at least 150 minutes a week. So therefore, you could break it down to maybe 30-minute exercise sessions 5 days a week.
Well, Dr. Griffin, I want to thank you so much for all of the great information that you just gave our viewers on Let's Talk with Lakshmi about wellness and health, of course, exercise. When we return, we're going to visit Dr. Ken in his office.
Well, I guess about 10 years ago, I first noticed I started losing sensation in my fingers, and they started to curl up. And as the years progressed, I was working at the time at the racetrack, and then I switched over to construction. I was losing my ability to hold nails, do my own zippers, do buttons, and I just never addressed it. And I'd say about 10 years later, I was in an emergency room for an unrelated
situation, and surgeon noticed that my hands had curled to the point where it was difficult for me to open them, and suggested that I see a neurologist because he thought that my problems were a whole lot worse than diverticulitis. And went to see a neurologist a couple of days later, and after an MRI and a nerve conduction test, it was determined that I had some severe damage to my neck that was pinching nerves and basically lost the ability to transmit signals to my hands, and as a result they atrophied over the years. I had probably let the problem get a little further than I should have, and basically was told by the neurologist that I need to be on an operating table within days, and if I'd had an accident, a fall from a ladder, a trip and fall in my own house, that I could have been permanently damaged and maybe lose my ability to even walk. So he made arrangements for me to have surgery downstate, but Dr. Hansraj was recommended to me, highly recommended to me, and before I committed myself to surgery downstate, I wanted to speak to Dr. Hansraj, and I'd have to say it was about 5 minutes after being in his office. Don't think I've even completed the paperwork with the receptionist when I realized that this is where I had to be, and I was on the operating table within a week, and to say that it was a life-changing experience is an understatement, absolute understatement. How am I today? I couldn't even put into words. I mean, I went back to the racetrack, which is probably where I first caused the first injuries, falling off horses, and went back to training horses full time. I'm out every single day. I've lost 50 pounds. I'm manic, active. I can't sit still. But it was the life-changing part of it came in that period after surgery, where with Dr. Hansraj's guidance, I was able to refocus my entire life, because I think it's incumbent on everybody to take stock at some point in time in where they've been in life, where they're going to go in life. And this 5-6 month period where I was basically unable to do anything else, I took stock in my entire life and made basically life-changing decisions. Now, from a physical standpoint, I'm in better shape at 52 than I was at 32, and that is the absolute truth. From a psychological and spiritual standpoint, I've never been better, never a day in my life.
So, Dr. Ken, we are here at the New York Spine Surgery and Rehabilitation Medicine Center, your office in Poughkeepsie, New York. This is where the magic begins. So tell me, what happens when a patient comes through these doors?
When a patient walks through our doors, they are in terrible pain. They're really suffering. And so we try to wrap words around their problems and try to really understand what's going on. We do a history, a physical examination, then we do an MRI and x-rays to see what's going on within the spine.
What would you say are the most common back issues?
Lakshmi, we have a saying that world citizens are bold, world citizens are beautiful, world citizens are brave. They behave as though they have a spine, but they do not know what this means. So people are just not aware that they have a spine. They're not aware that they have beautiful spine joints that need to be taken care of. And they're not aware that they have nerves and other parts of the spine that just needs to be taken care of.
So they don't know their spine.
That's correct, yes.
Well, Dr. Ken, you have this beautiful spine in front of you. Why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about their spine?
The spine is a combination of 24 pairs of beautiful and very precious joints. And these joints are very important. Every motion in your neck and back is through a combination of these joints. And people are not aware that they have these joints, and so they don't know how to take care of them. And then people need to be aware that they have nerves that exit at every single level. And these nerves carry information all about the body. Brings information and carries information. The spinal cord and nerve roots are how the body communicates with the brain.
Dr. Ken, how do we take care of the joints and how do we take care of the nerves?
To take care of the joints, you need to provide motion. So for example, in the neck, Lakshmi, you can do flexion, extension, side bends, and tilts. And so when you're doing that, you're moving those joints and they just feel better. Another way to take care of the joints is to do yoga. And when you do upward dog and downward dog, or maybe the cat-cow, when you do the positions of yoga, you're really moving and really using these spinal joints.
Is this something we should do every day?
So you should do it in the morning when you get up and when the spine joints get going. Boy, your range of motion, flexibility, and your feel-good gets going as well. In the middle of the day when you're having a lull at work, that's another great time to do it. And sleep is such an important phenomenon. You should prepare for sleep by doing these stretches.
Tell me about cracking your back or cracking your neck. Is that good? Is that bad?
This is actually good. See, people are just not aware that their joints need to move, and so they don't move them. And then when they hurt, then they move them and they hear the cracking. But the cracking is no different from when the knuckles are cracked. It's just the joints moving. And in this case, it's the joints begging to move. So the more you move them, the less they'll crack, and the more range of motion you'll have, and the better you'll feel.
Dr. Ken, someone who's a smoker, does this affect their back?
Oh, absolutely. So what smoking does is it constricts the arteries by the spine, and it sends more blood to your brain. And so you're feeling more oxygenated, and you're feeling better, and you're having a better moment. But what happens at the level of the spine, when the arteries are constricted and there's no blood supply, it's easier to crack the disc spaces. And from one crack you can get 2 cracks and 3 cracks. But then if you combine that by helping to build a house, or jackhammer a friend's driveway, or do something with aggressive bending, lifting, twisting, reaching, then you can get inflammation and permanent destruction. So yes, smoking does affect the spine. It destroys it.
So viewers that are looking at this, and if you're a smoker, it's very important. You're going to damage your back. Please stop. Dr. Ken, let's talk about breathing. I mean, in yoga, we spoke with Dr. Griffin, and she explained how yoga is optimal for spinal care. Let's talk about breathing. How important is proper breathing for our spine?
Breath is important for life. And there are hundreds of studies that say that if you do deep belly breathing, you take a deep breath and fill up your lower belly, your chest, and your upper chest, that your whole chemistry changes. If you're massively depressed, if you're minorly depressed, it just gets better. And your whole body chemistry changes. So breath is so important. Breath is important in the spine in that when you're taking deep breaths, the spinal nerves are moving in a channel better. And so when the nerves move, it's called nerve mobility. And this is so important, and the nerves feel better. They're physiologically better. Sometimes nerves get stuck down. Let's say you've had a previous surgery and there's a scar and the nerve is stuck, it's not moving. Then I would need to come in surgery and remove the scar and help that nerve to move again. And patients typically do better with that. They're usually a lot better.
Now, Dr. Griffin also spoke about health and exercise. And one thing she briefly mentioned about was obesity. Does obesity affect one's back?
There's a recent study that showed the relationship of obesity and back pain. So for moderate obesity, the study found that if you spend 2 hours around your house just doing things like cooking, cleaning, running up and down stairs, folding clothes, that there was a metabolic shift, and just 2 hours of this light activity diminished the risk of you having significant back pain about 33%. And then if you took it to the next level and you started doing things like gardening or ballroom dancing or just light jogging, you diminish your risk another 15 to 20%. And that's quite astounding. But even more absolutely astounding is the severely obese, the morbidly obese. So when they studied the morbidly obese patient, and they did just 1.3 minutes of vigorous exercise as much as they can, they dropped their risk of back pain another 30%. And if they did an extra minute, they dropped it another 15 to 20%. So the studies are saying if you're obese and you want to diminish your risk of back pain, just get going. Just start walking, getting around your house, cooking, cleaning, then maybe go outside and ballroom dancing and jogging, and incrementally you will get better, and definitely you will diminish your chances of having back pain.
Dr. Ken, I know you have performed over 3,000 surgeries in about a 20-year span. What is one surgery that really touched your heart?
Lakshmi, all surgeries are really heart-touching. So you're really dealing, that's one thing when a patient's in jail or a patient's incarcerated. It's a different thing when the spinal cord and nerve roots are just so tight and incarcerated that you can't move or you can't take a breath without pain. And so surgeons come in, we come in and we free up the canal, we open up the canal, and patients feel better. So it's really a lifestyle of great moments. But the time that's most special to me is really the Helen Daniels story, and I have her permission to mention her name. Helen came to me at 100, and her boys brought her in. She was not walking for a month. And so we fixed 2 fractures by putting cement into the bones. Very simple operation after really doing an elaborate workup to make sure that she could undergo this surgery. And she walked again, and she lived another 4.5 years, and we were very close, and I loved Helen. She's probably my most special patient.
Dr. Ken, let's talk about the operating room. When you're going in for a surgery, I mean, what are some things that you have to prepare for, and what are you expecting when you go into this operating room?
When we're going in for surgery, I need to be very clear as to what the problem is. And we do this with MRI scans and CT scans and so on. And we know exactly where the problem is, where the constriction is, or what level needs to be stabilized, or which level needs to be re-cleaned up, and so on. So we're clear on what the problem is. And we're clear on what we need in surgery, we're clear on what instruments we need, which assistance we need, and so on. So the technical aspects we're very clear on. What you may not know is that on the morning of surgery I do an elaborate prayer so that my hands are divinely guided and that I would not or never hurt someone.
Tell me about a neck surgery.
So neck surgeries are very special. So typically patients come in and they have pain in the neck and radiating down the arm in one zone or another. And so we get an MRI scan and we find out what the obstruction is. This is not yet an indication for surgery. Or very rarely do patients go immediately for surgery. So what we do is we send them for conservative care, which could be physical therapy or pain management or Reiki or acupuncture. So many things to see if we can calm the nerve down. And if the nerve is calmed down, then there's no need for surgery. But if the nerve doesn't calm down, then we need to clean up that segment. So what I do is I take the patient to the operating room, and the anesthesiologist does an elaborate set of monitoring lines. Then he puts the patients to sleep. And so when he puts the patient to sleep, then I prep the patient and I make an incision in the neck, right, in the crease of the neck. So we make an incision in the crease of the neck, and then we use distractors to get down to the spine. At the level of the spine, I take what's called a pituitary rongeur, and I remove the intervertebral disc between the 2 vertebral bodies. So when I remove the disc, even though you think we're done cleaning up, that's not so. Then I use a drill and I drill the end plates of the bones above and below very cleanly so I can see squarely back into the vertebral body to make sure I'm not leaving any obstruction. So we make sure the nerves are free. And then when I'm certain that it's clean, then I put a bone plug which holds the nerves in the correct position, allows them to be free. And from time to time we stabilize the segment with a plate. Yeah.
Well, Dr. Ken, I understand that you were the orthopedic consultant for Darren Aronofsky's production of Black Swan. I mean, tell me about that. How did this opportunity emerge for you?
Well, Darren Aronofsky's group reached out to me to help them to make the orthopedic construct that was used in the movie. So if you remember in the Black Swan, very early in the movie, the old queen was deposed and she ran out and was hit by a taxi. Then you saw her in bed with a 3-dimensional orthopedic construct, and that was mine. So I made that. And I learned more than any of the services I provided to Aronofsky's group. I learned to look at how they work so precisely and laboriously reshooting everything until it's perfect. And I learned, and it's with this vision I wrote Keys to an Amazing Life. So I would not allow a single page to go unless it was perfectly shot. So I'm really grateful to the team. It was a great experience.
Would you participate in future movies?
Absolutely, it's fun. It was really fun to observe the craft.
Dr. Ken, there are a lot of youths pursuing careers in the sciences. What advice would you give them?
So the young people come to me and they ask me, how do I become excellent in the future? And so the first thing I tell them is not to choose any single one area. I tell them it's a moving future. Whatever you see, respect, and so desire today will change tomorrow, and then will change again. So I say develop pathways of excellence. Be really, really ready with excellence. So I tell them to be fit like a professional athlete. I tell them to be able to type as fast as you're thinking so you can be a great writer. I tell them to read voraciously, read 40, 50, 60 books a year. And I tell them to develop mentors. I've been so fortunate and so blessed that I've had so many great mentors that have guided me and helped me and showed me pathways of excellence.
And for our viewers that are looking at Let's Talk with Lakshmi today, what advice would you give the community about spinal care and taking care of yourself on an everyday basis?
My advice to my patients is to pay attention to 5 strategies. So I tell them that good posture is most important. I tell my patients that posture is king, and all of the studies show that in good posture, your internal chemistry changes. And there's so many good attributes. Then I tell them to make sure that they take deep breaths all day. Engage in deep belly breathing, and I show them all the goodness of it by the hundreds of studies. I show my patients how to do the mobility exercises, to do the flexion, extension, side bends, and so on, of the neck and also of the lower back. And I recommend they do it in the morning, in the middle of the day, and before they go to sleep, as a way of preparing to sleep better. Then I show them strategies for strengthening. So I tell my patients that if they do 25 push-ups a day, which is just a minute of work, it's 9,000 in 1 year. And if they do a minute of plank a day, they would have a phenomenally strong core, along with a minute of partial sit-ups, not full sit-ups. I recommend for them to do 5 minutes of aerobic activities. Also, I show my patients the studies of meditation, and I recommend 15 to 20 minutes a day. The studies in meditation are showing that with just 8 weeks of meditation, your frontal cortex actually grows by MRI scans, and your amygdala, the reactive emotional brain, becomes smaller. So that's the routine that I recommend for my patients.
Dr. Ken, I mean, we all know that you are from Guyana, and Let's Talk with Lakshmi is also aired in Guyana. To our viewers back home, maybe some people from West Coast where you're from, what message would you give to them that are looking at a young man that came here when he was 12 years of age, and today, now, he's a successful spinal surgeon in America?
The message I would give to my community, and I was born on the west coast of Guyana in Demerara, which is one of the most remote spots on planet Earth. The message I would give is one of recognition. It seems that these remote areas are talent hubs for people that are really hungry to do really wonderful things. And there's so many people that have come out of these areas that are doing great things already. For someone aspiring to do excellent work, I would remind them that the studies show that it takes 10,000 hours, which is about 10 years of practice, to be able to operate at a master level.
You are. I mean, I follow you on Facebook. I get your wonderful morning messages. I follow all your books, all of your conferences, your meetings, your launches. I mean, you're really out there doing a wonderful thing for yourself and, of course, for our West Indian community. And I'm very proud and very honored to have met a man of yourself, of great esteem, a brilliant man, a brilliant surgeon.
Well, thank you for all those kind words. I'll try to live up to them.
Well, Dr. Ken, it was wonderful visiting you, coming down here at the New York Spine Surgery and Rehabilitation Medicine Center. We loved visiting your home, meeting with Dr. Griffin, your wife, and from the crew of Let's Talk with Lakshmi, casting crew of Let's Talk with Lakshmi, we wish you all the best.
Thank you, Lakshmi. Come again.
Thank you.
You're welcome.